Welcome to the CAFMA Connect. This week, Chief Freitag is gone, and it has certainly been a quiet week, and he must be out of range and enjoying himself out on the trail. So, usually when the boss is away, bad things happen, but it's been surprisingly quiet. So we won't make any more comments on that or poke it anymore, but I hope he's enjoying his time. One of his parting shots, though, was that I get to do the podcast this week. Normally I get to smile and nod on that side of it. He takes care of all the airtime, but this week I have to be here. So with that, I have Battalion Chief Todd Abel.
Well,
thanks for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Great. So this morning, obviously, I called you and explained I don't get to use my authority very often, but I am calling in to invite you graciously to the podcast.
Did I really have a choice?
I mean, you did, but I definitely started it out in a way that I'm asking very nicely.
Yeah, you did.
Yes,
you did.
Perfect. With that, though, I didn't realize this is your first time gracing this podcast. So
I know.
Thank you for being here.
I appreciate it. I'm gled to be here. I really am. So it's good.
One of the things we talked about before we got started was the Wildland. It's interesting today even. Yeah, we're dealing with that, not just in the community, but looking at what's going on in Texas, Oklahoma, and all that over there. We've already sent out messages that, the state is looking for resources possibly. And so it has already begun, not necessarily locally, which we can have a fire with the grass. I mean, we can have a fire any and all times during the year.
Yeah.
But it definitely becomes more volatile as we get in the summer months. Right now, though, there's other folks across the country that are dealing with it.
Yep. Well, and I'll just kind of add on to that. So just to kind of fill everybody in on kind of what we got going here at CAFMA is that when we have large fires in our area, we will actually get help from other people. And then in the meantime, we go help other people. Sure. So that's why Texas is actually having some issues right now. Oklahoma's having some issues. And Arizona State Department of Forestry and Fire Management did call today asking to see what resources we had available. So they're kind of gearing up to go help those folks.
Which I think is a great point because people don't always realize that we do assist with fires, not only across the state, through mutual aid with other agencies, but as part of, assistance to the state agencies. At the same time, we help bolster the response across the country because no one usually has the resources for some of these large fires that we see, including ourselves. Here locally, if we have a large, fire within, even within our jurisdictions, we're calling for help.
Yes.
And we are part of that help in sending it and receiving it.
Yep.
So it's, like I say, it's a very important part, and sometimes people don't realize, why are you sending resources out?
Correct.
Which you can probably explain a little better what the state has for resources.
Yeah. So it's kind of a very unique and very rewarding system we have in place.
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple examples. Even like California, with all the resources they have over there, they still need help too. Yeah. I mean, everywhere from northern to southern California. So, and then when we get ourselves started in our fire season, which is coming, I would say it's probably, another couple weeks out. We've already had some fairly large fires down on the southern part of Arizona, down on the border. So it's already kind of started. They've had enough resources down there to kind of manage that. But we'll get resources from all over the country to come help us. So the way the system works on a national scheme of things works really well. It does work well.
Well, and you look at the opportunity for our personnel to get training through experience and going out on these different fires, being part of large incidents. It's a huge opportunity for our personnel. A lot of our personnel are working through even qualifications, in that wildland arena, and it's necessary for them to be on some of those incidents. Oh, yeah. And it only better prepares them for when they're here, which is awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, but Chief Feddema knows this. I've been very fortunate. The organization has supported me since I first got hired. I'm currently a Type 1 Operations Section Chief on a Type 1 team. So that knowledge that I've gained over all those years and then brought back to the organization hopefully has been very helpful. I mean, I was fortunate to be available for the Viewpoint fire, the Indian fire, some of those large fires, the horse fire that we've had locally to bring some of that experience in and then help manage them larger scale fires.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, and you look at not only that, but just the partnerships that you've been able to, foster in all that. We have a great relationship with the Prescott National Forest here locally, and obviously with the state. I mean, the state is out in Chino. They are in some of our facilities.
Yes.
So, like I say, being involved has only helped foster those relationships. So when we do have a viewpoint fire or an Indian fire, that communication and that link between us and the green trucks, the white trucks, it's seamless. And I think that's been, pretty significant for, just helping this community in those times of significant fires.
Yeah, and I'll just build on that a little bit too. So we call it the Prescott Basin. So that's basically all the local fire departments in the Prescott area, and that includes the Prescott National Forest, the DFFM, the state agencies, even a little bit of BLM, the Bureau of Land Management stuff, has lands up in this area. So we all work together. And I will tell you, as much as I've traveled over the whole country, and I've been everywhere from California to Florida fighting fire.
Alaska, yes.
Yeah, exactly. All over the place. When I talk about the system and the teamwork we have here in the Prescott Basin, people are floored. Yeah. People are actually have called me afterwards to ask, how do you do that? How can we get started so we can start doing that in our community, which I think is huge.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, anytime you can foster those relationships, train together, we work in the same stations together, nothing but good happens for our folks that we want to take care of our citizens in the area for sure.
Yeah, like you say, it's an example of what that partnerships create. And obviously for me personally, being in this position now, I'm on the receiving end of those great partnerships that were created long before I even got here, which is awesome. We just continue to foster those. But I think some of that came from the people, the personalities that were in key positions that helped foster that, understanding that looking at the community as a whole, you have a lot of folks now and in the past that were vested in this community and wanted the best for the community, and understanding that best came from that partnership.
Yeah.
And it's cool to be to see it now, and you don't sometimes realize it or even appreciate it until you go somewhere else and realize, like, wait a second, you guys don't talk?
Yeah.
You guys don't communicate? You don't train? Yes.
Yes.
I mean, we're getting ready to start the Prescott Basin drill.
Yes.
And that's a joint training effort between all the agencies in the Prescott Basin, which is awesome.
Yeah. And it will be live fire again, which is good.
Yeah.
That's good. Good training for our folks. I'll kind of build on that too. So it was before my time. It was in the early 80s, I believe, that this whole Prescott Basin group kind of developed. And I hear the stories about one of the first large fires they had. They went to connect some hoses off of a local government, a fire department rig, to a Forest Service rig, and they didn't fit.
Yeah.
They didn't work. So after that fire, they were like, okay, time out. We need to get everybody on the same page, get everybody together. And ever since then, it's been, I think it's a model that the nation could use to carry forward, and they do. Sure. I know that there's people out there that use our model that we've created here to better serve their folks that they work for. So
yeah, and I think I think it comes from that communication, because we have meetings, not only the Prescott Basin drill where it's a facilitated drill, but we look at even from the IT side with Jonah and his team. We have meetings related to the frequencies and how we are going to communicate. Communication is always something that's brought up. I don't care where it is, whether it's a personnel issue, breakdown, or an incident breakdown. Usually communication is brought up in the midst of it. Yeah. But I think we have done a lot to try to help mitigate that with bringing the people together before we are having these incidents to say, okay, what do we need to do to move forward? Yeah. And it's not like it's always agreement and it's always, perfect, like, hey, everybody's happy. But that communication is taken care of, and we come back year after year working to make sure that part of it is as seamless as we can make it.
Yeah, and another good example, like for the basin drill that we've done probably the last 5 years or so, our communication IT folks have been involved in that. Yeah. We've brought in dispatchers from PRCC. We've brought in dispatchers from ADC, which is the Arizona Dispatch Center that dispatches for the state. We bring them all together so before we get into our seasons, they're meeting face-to-face. They're getting to know who each other is. Our comms IT guys are making sure frequencies are working. People know how to use their radios, know how to switch to groups, make all that happen. So all that preparation prior to the season sets us up for success for sure.
No, for sure. So let's get on the wildland discussion. Obviously, we're coming up on it. We're already dealing with it in Texas. But let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about you. How long have you been in the agency?
So I've been here for 22 and a half years now.
Okay.
I've been involved with the Wildland program before I even got hired full-time. I was a reserve and I was going out on engines. I'm currently a battalion chief here. I currently run the Wildland program, and I currently am a Type 1 ops chief on one of the Type 1 teams.
Very good. How long were you reserve?
I was a reserve for a year and a half.
Nice. Yeah. I was reserve for 2 years, and I was a horrible reserve, just the way it went. But I was reserve for 2 years. But at the same time, I am glad I didn't get hired 2 years early. It was a good opportunity for me to mature, work some construction, and build some skills before I got hired. And that only helped me in my fire service career. But I have to, I was not a good reserve. But hey,
look where you're at now.
Even I can correct it. So, all right. So reserve for 2 years. I remember working. You were the engineer. I was the firefighter out of 57 with Captain Vanetta. So I think we spent a year out there.
Yep.
We did work out there. Yes. We too have been out there. But good. How much time you have left?
So I am currently in the drop program. I've got 3 years left. The end of April will be 3 years for me. I'll have left.
Very good. I'm jealous.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm going to quit working, but I'll be done 3 years here. I'll retire in 3 years.
Perfect. No, that's good. I think, looking at, we've talked a lot about the succession of the Wildland program, and obviously you look at the programs you've been a part of helping build the Wildland team and the group. There's been a lot of folks that have been a part of that. But it's also looking at who's the next generation taking those things on, those programs on. And I know you've working with a few folks to help identify that and help continue the success of those programs and even those relationships as you get to look at the next 3 years, taking that next step into retirement, at least from this agency.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Well, and that's been kind of fun. I got to tell you, we've got some younger folks that we've hired in the last 3-4 years, year or two even, that are definitely interested in the program. They're stepping up. They're helping take on some of those duties. I mean, if you think about that Wildland program, it's everything from chainsaw equipment to chainsaw qualifications to teaching to help organizing the program to make sure everybody is getting what they need. And we've got a lot of young guys that are coming up that are definitely interested. So I feel confident that the program is going to be very successful after I leave this organization.
Awesome.
Sure.
No, that's good. And again, this community, Wildland is a big part of this community. You look at the number of fires we have, a lot of them are kept small. Every now and then we see one, the whole community gets to see it, but we see those fires that get out of control. And having those personnel that have experience and have education and have the preparation is key in those moments because those little fires are fairly easy. When they go beyond that, it starts to get the complexity, and you have evacuations and all the kinds of things that start going on. The political nature of those fires, there's a lot of skill that comes into play to mitigating those. And the personnel that we, bring up is going to be very important to keeping the success of the program moving forward.
Yeah. Well, and I think, we send engines out on a fairly regular basis. We send what we call Type 6 engines, Type 3 engines out on a regular basis. We send medic teams out to go support those folks medically. Yep. We've got people that are involved in teams. We got people that are division supervisors. So my point with all this is we're actually creating that successional plan. We're keep on building on those folks. So as they move up through the ranks here at our organization, they're also moving through those ranks in the Wildland world, which will help benefit us when we get those large fires. Yeah, so it's a good thing.
So obviously we, a big part of our department is that fighting those fires. Any recommendations for those many folks that are watching that just part of the community? What are some of the recommendations just for the community side to think about as we get into this process or in this season? Any recommendations?
Yeah, so a couple things. So I think most people know as we've gone through the last 10, 12, 15 years, fire has become very dynamic. It's always been dynamic, but it's quicker, it's moving faster. There's bigger fires. I can remember when I first started, I was able to drive, as an ops chief, I was able to drive all the way around a fire in a day. There's no way I can do that anymore. Yeah, they're just too big. Yeah. They're large fires, fast moving. Where we live with our grass, our brush. Once you get into Prescott, you get into some of that timber, but there's that transition from grass to brush to timber. That fire is going to move fast. Yeah. So my recommendations to folks is, I'm not going to go through all the specifics, but please get online if you don't know what defensible space looks like. Yeah. I have not been on a fire in probably the last 15 years that hasn't involved structures. there's always the wildland urban interface, meaning structures in the woods. It's everywhere. I mean, it's beautiful to live there. It's awesome. I support that. I live in the wildland urban interface. But I also make sure that I have my defensible space. I have things taken care of. So if you're not sure what defensible space looks like, go on our website, go on Google it, and you'll find examples of how to make your house defensible for us firefighters to help you keep your property.
And that's a good way to put it, because there's times when we'll have to triage structures, no different than we have to triage patients on a large incident.
Correct.
It's not fun, but you can tell the incidents or the structures that you go on that there was preparation done. There was thoughtful preparation to help mitigate, create a defensible space where we can come in and be part of that defense.
Yes.
You can also see the properties where you come up on them and it's like there's no defense in the situation. And at that point, it's written off. And there's not a whole lot that we can do in this situation, because you could put a lot of resources there in an unsafe environment and still not save the structure. And you have to triage that at that point. Ones you can save versus the ones you cannot.
Correct. And the other thing that's happening to us this last few years, as busy as many fires we've had across the whole country, when we start getting into what we call planning level 4 and 5, planning levels start at 1, end at 5. So if we're in planning level 4 or 5, there's multiple large fires going on in the country. Sure. So what that does is that shrinks our resources. So if we get a large fire, we're limited on the resources we can just get. There's just not enough resources. So adding on to what you're saying as far as the triage, unfortunately, we would love to be able to spend a week at somebody's house to give them that defensible space. We just don't have the resources or sometimes the time to do that. So that's why we're asking, please take a look at your own residence, look at what defensible space looks like for you, and see if you can help us out. So if there is a fire in the area, we have a better chance of saving that house.
Yeah, no, that's good. And you look at, as far as the resources that we send out, there's definitely time when we have to do our own triage because of just the time of the year.
Correct.
Obviously, we have different seasons here locally where we will not send as many resources out. And sometimes that's just dependent upon the amount of backfill we have.
Yep.
And, our personnel, it's great to get that experience. It's great to be able to, we'll backfill them coming in. But at the same time, people get tired.
Yes.
And our own personnel get tired. And we have to be mindful of that. It's my job, even in the operations side, to make sure we're mindful of that. The BCs, you guys do a great job helping manage that. And there's definitely conversations that happen throughout the year where, hey, we're having trouble, backfilling the positions. I think we need to turn down that next assignment. And obviously that turn down, it then affects those national resources availability, and then that affects you on the fires. When you're out there, you don't have those resources coming.
And yes, that's a difficult. We have that conversation 3 or 4 times a season.
Yep.
But I guess the way I look at it, and I know you do, we have to take care of our people here at the organization and then our people in the community. So we need to make sure we have the resources available here. Which is our number one objective. And then if that's taken care of, then we can start going to help other people. For sure.
It's a great way to put it. We are supplementing those systems based on the extra that we have here at that point. But again, priority one is this community, our not just our personnel, but our citizens as well. But again, that national system is in need of those resources.
And it's been taxed. That national system's been taxed for the last 10, 15 years with the amount of fires and the size of those fires we're having. You look at the fires they had in California last year, they had 2 of them that were over 1 million acres. That's the first, in my career. We've had some large ones, but not over 1 million acres. So.
Nope. With that, anything else to close us out?
No, I'm glad to be here. It wasn't as bad. You made it sound like it was going to be a little rough.
I don't think it was that bad. And at least gave you a time to talk. Normally Freitag, he's got his agenda, and I don't want to weigh in on it too much because we'll go an hour. So I'm very cautious. When you see me just quiet and nod, I'm just trying to make sure that Jonah, backing Jonah up over there, so it's not too long. So we're right at 20 minutes. Great. Thank you for coming. Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me, seriously.
And for all those out there, obviously we're getting the wildland season, and be mindful not only of your chains dragging, but just obviously the fires around your home. Clear your space, create a defensible space around your home, make it easier for the firefighters in the community, and stay safe and have fun.